Welcome to video 1 for the first element in our series, Nature and the Environment. Let's be honest. How often today are you find yourself staring at a screen, computer screen, or your phone? I don't know about you, Leanne, but I do that a lot more than I used to.
A lot, and my eyes can feel it.
Absolutely. And well, we're betting you do as well. In fact, there's recent U.S. research that said something like 60 to 80% increase in screen time since 2020, since the pandemic, which makes sense because we were a little bit isolated and we had to deal with that. So this is creating a big challenge for us around, this artificial reality, right? We're using this technology, we're staring into these, screens, and it's our reality, but it's not natural reality. So this is really the challenge of the distinction between artificial reality and natural reality. And as we go further out, if you look at the increase over time of technology and urban living, we've continually extracted ourselves from the natural world, right? And this creates not a challenge on our sort of mental and emotional and our physiological processes, but it actually reinforces this worldview that we're better connected in bits and bytes than we are in the natural world.
Yeah, and by contrast, stark contrast, ancient cultures really had humanity, first of all, deeply embedded within the natural world and held a deep respect for the natural world. In fact, this was really a core different worldview where our connection as humans was so integral with nature that connection was a deep foundational part of the human psyche. There was no such thing as being above nature, because if you at a fundamental level were connected with the natural world, and when you were in right relationship with that natural world, everything kind of flowed. To be above nature would be to be out of alignment with yourself. And so that just didn't even exist as a construct. And so if you think about it, this idea in many ancient cultures that if the environment was clean and positive, then that would have a positive impact on your results in all aspects of your existence. That was just the way that things were. And if the world as a whole is a giant living organism, right, then you want to be connected with nature in a holistic kind of harmonious manner. And there were a lot of different proverbs or sayings in different cultures. I know Native American one here locally in Arizona had something to do with, if nature suffers, we suffer. If nature prospers, we prosper. And so as a leader, if in these ancient environments, in these communities, you really had to think about any actions that you would take were not only in service of a small finite group of people, but had to be in service of the environment as well, for that to kind of be in flow.
Right. And so whether they were fishing or hunting or doing anything of that sort, the focus was on what do they need to do to sustain themselves, but also create this ability to sustain themselves over time. Right. And so as organizations, we don't often think about ourselves and organizations as an ecosystem. And in fact, we are, right? And so part of our work here, what we invite you to do is to begin to think of your organization as an ecosystem and look at the cycle and energy of flow in your ecosystem and how you can sustain that for the short term as well as the long term. It's all about that cycle of energy and flow. And we don't think this way, and we should be thinking more this way.
Yeah, I think, and Rick, you and I had talked about this, that one of the most powerful constructs that I learned about kind of this ecosystem framework that is in this larger worldview of like connected with the environment around us was when I lived in Hawaii. And many of you may have been visitors to Hawaii, a vacation there, spent some time there, and you may be aware of a socioeconomic ecosystem that has been around since ancient times. It's still there today. In fact, when you drive around, you can kind of see the remnants of this and little signs that mark it. But it's a system called the Ahupua'a. And this is a system of kind of dividing up the aina, the land, from Malca, from the mountains, to Makai, to the ocean, along kind of streams from the mountain that would be sources of, resources of abundance, right, and prosperity. And it would be how we organized ourselves as humans around, from the mountains to the ocean, the generation, first of all, self-sufficiency, right, and the generation of sustainable growth in the resources that we have. It's an island nation in the middle of the ocean. We have a certain amount of finite resources. We better make the best of this and honor the aina, the land, in a way that continually kind of gives back, not only for now, but for generations to come. And that's where this worldview extends itself to the longer term, to think about any actions that we take now must also be sort of paving the way for leaving the environment around us in a better place than before for generations to come to continue to prosper. And today when you're in Hawaii, you can still see markers of, okay, we're entering this ahupua'a, or you drive around to the next area and you can see how different parts of the island were able to generate that.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we want to focus your attention on today is the application of this principle in the organization that you're in today. So here's what you do. You think about your organization as an ecosystem and begin to examine what are your current processes and procedures, and in what way is that sustaining you today, but also enabling that legacy and leaving the world better off, tomorrow than it is today. And this is challenging work, particularly in a capitalistic world where there's a lot of emphasis on short-term results. So we're not discounting the need for short-term results,
right,
because even in ancient times, people had to feed themselves every day. They had to survive, right? And so we grant the focus on short-term results for survival. We just invite you to balance that with what are the things you're doing to enable you to sustain this over time and to actually leave your organization and your ecosystem in a better place than it has been and will be when you leave it, right? So that's the big takeaway for this video, which is a nice segue into our next video, Leanne, which is element 2, when we talk about community and interconnectedness. So we'll see you in the next video.
See you there.